Welcome to episode 27 of the Camera Shake podcast with me, Kersten and Nick Kirby. We talk about all sorts of different things to do with photography, videography, making photos, making videos, and the whole shebang. Sometimes we even mention gear, believe it or not. But today we have a very special guest on the show. Please welcome Hannah Couzens. Hannah, how are you doing?
Hi guys, I'm very good, thank you. This is a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me. This is great fun.
For those of you who have not heard of Hannah yet, Hannah is an award-winning award-winning portrait photographer from St. Albans near London. And you also, well, I say from St. Albans, but you've just moved studios.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's funny because it's a bit of a standing joke because St. Albans is a very affluent area, a very middle-class town, and my accent does not fit in. So I was actually brought up in North London. You don't get an accent like this in St. Albans. So I'm not from there, and I don't even live there. So this might be something interesting to discuss, how sometimes having a business in a different area to where you live and the impact of that. But no, I have access to a few places. So right now I'm in my home studio. This is my garage at home. My sort of story is that I had a high street studio in St. Albans. I had one previous to that too. We can go on and on. But I had one in St. Albans for 10 years. The lease expired in January of 2019, and they wanted me to sign another 10-year lease. And I was like, no, not doing that. And of course, now I am much happier that I didn't do that, given the current circumstances. So I was in a sort of temporary space to sort of see, can I get away with not being on the high street? Because I'd had this, it was beautiful. I paid through the roof for it, but I had this beautiful glass fronted shop on the main high street, did all of that. And then I've been in this other place, which is still on the main drag, but no shop front. So it's kind of like you have to press a buzzer to get access. Because I was terrified that if I went off the high street, would anybody know that I was there? Like, how does this work? But of course, how we find things, how we shop, all of that has changed so much in the last 10 years. But it was always, I was never like really happy with it. So it's been a bit of a means to an end. And then literally 2 days ago, we've moved 4 minutes down the road to a much bigger space, a space that I'm so much happier with. It's much better. Again, it's like, it's going to be another doorbell system, so it's all by appointment still. But it's bigger, it's got parking, which is unheard of in that town, and just lots of things like that make a difference to the customer experience. So very happy about that one. And then, of course, still got the central London space knocking about. But the thing is, at the moment, no one really wants to go into London, so that's fair enough. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a mad time.
Well, if you're literally moving today, a double thank you for being able to jump on the podcast with us today.
No worries at all. No, there's always room to fit things in if you want to.
That's very true. Very, very true.
Did you sign another 10-year lease for your new place though?
No way. No. I mean, that's the one thing that I would sort of say to anybody. I mean, I got started really young. I was 22 in 2005. I don't know, I've given away how old I am. I signed a 10-year lease there, but I actually got out of that one after 7 years because I overlapped them and ran 2 at the same time. And it was kind of like a standard thing sort of back then. I think really that landlords would want you to sign very long leases. That was kind of fine when I was sort of 25 to 35 or, that kind of age. But being sort of, when I would have been sort of 36 to 46, and I realised I was doing something else too, which was that I've got a job. We all have jobs where we can travel and go anywhere and should be able to do our jobs from anywhere. But what I found that I was doing is restricting my freedom by anchoring myself to one place, especially if it was a place that needed, like the shop that needed to have someone in it every day. So I would sort of, say to people, especially at the moment, just be very careful if you're going to go for a studio space, just be very careful of the terms and because there's the full repairing lease, which means you've got to return it back to how it was. And all of these things that you think at the time, that's fine. Come the time where you move out, suddenly it's a whole headache that you got to deal with. So I just be very careful at the moment, just with the way things are.
Years ago, in my previous life, I set up, and I was sort of in my mid-20s, I set up a music school because my background is, I studied music and I started teaching. And then before I knew it, my timetable was full, and I figured that, if I can't physically teach any more people or book in any more students, I might as well have other people teach for me. And then you very quickly arrive at the idea of setting up a school, but then you need some form of location for that to happen. So I was kind of in the same boat. I signed a 10-year lease on a building, with a concert hall and classrooms and a studio. Yeah. And it seemed amazing at the time. And I didn't know anything about any of this, right?
Yeah.
Because just because you can play the guitar half decent doesn't necessarily mean you know a lot about business, right?
Absolutely right. Yeah. Why should you?
But I had, for some reason, I built in a 5-year break clause into the contract. Yes. And that was perfect, because after 5 years, it's a similar sort of thing where, the landlord, thinks like the roof starts leaking and the windows don't shut and any of that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden you get the toilet is blocked or whatever it is. And you've got to, you get to spend a lot of money on actually keeping the building intact. And the landlord literally doesn't do anything, just sits there.
And you're so right. And I think that's the problem, is that I think sort of when we think of, renting a space, we sort of think of the residential terms, which of course are very different, which where if something goes wrong, you call the landlord and go, hey, this is doing this, can you fix it? It's not the same. You're absolutely right, Kirsten. All of a sudden you find out that you're paying for someone's roof and you're, having a new floor installed or something. And you're like, hang on a minute, I'm giving this person rent and I'm paying for their building. And that's so different to residential that I think many people could trip up there and not realize that. So I totally hear you. But did you get out after the 5 years then?
Yeah, well, there was one incident where basically I tried to work out why I would heat up the rooms and they would go cold really quickly, until I realized that there was no insulation in the roof, right? Which at the time even was against the regulations. And so, and I spoke to the landlord and he goes like, oh, well, you can have to pay for it. I'm thinking, nope. So as a consequence, we sort of, evoked the 5-year break clause, but they would only let us go under the proviso that we would basically put the building back into the state as when we found it, which meant we had to paint everything. It's just, it was a lot of work at the end.
The exact same thing, and almost things where you're putting it back to a worse state because you probably enhanced the building in some respects by putting various things in place, but just because of the way that it is, no one seems to apply common sense and just go, oh no, we need this back again. And so I spent pretty much Christmas and New Year in there in the freezing cold, painting walls, filling holes, sanding everything. I've learned a lot about DIY as well.
Yeah, we recruited students, like volunteers who would help us, and parents. It was because the building was so big, with like 5 classrooms and a studio and an office and a concert hall, which was a pain in the neck to paint because it's very high ceilings and everything. Sure. There's a real nightmare. And after that, I kind of thought, no matter what I do in the future, I'm not gonna have like a brick and mortar type of studio for whatever. And as nice as a photographer, as nice as it sounds to have a studio, it's exactly those kind of pitfalls that come with it.
Absolutely.
And so, the interesting thing there was that when we spoke on the phone originally, and you mentioned that you're moving your studios, I kind of thought that's kind of a brave move in this, not only generally, but in this time as well. When when your instinct would basically say, because we don't know what the future holds over the next few years, it might be better to kind of get rid of that stuff. So what made you come to that decision to move into a new studio and take that on?
Right. So actually, it's not as scary as it sounds. It's actually a calculated business move. But it makes me laugh because you're not the only person that said that. Someone's like, who? Only you would go and move studios during this time. And I was like, yeah, probably. But no, it is a calculated move. So basically, where I was extremely, extremely expensive because it was only... it was supposed to be sort of a short-term solution. The good thing was with that is that it gave me a short get-out clause. So I only had a 2-month rolling contract where I needed to give notice. So I thought, okay, well, this is fine. But then lots of things started to happen. And it's so funny that you say the roof leaking, because that's exactly what happened just now. It happened in my old place as well, but this time the landlord was responsible for it. But there's little things that really disrupt things. And when it's not completely yours, and it's because it was part of a building where they sublet it out to different people. But there was various things that it's small. It was very expensive. It was because of the location of it. But I found increasingly that it was harder and harder to social distance, because the communal area, it was a communal area. So you've got various businesses operating from the same building. And if someone's got a customer waiting, see, I'm very much at the moment, if I have multiple people, I'd have them wait in reception, and I would call the person in that I was photographing, and then they would switch, and then that person would leave. And just to make sure that you're just sort of not keeping people hanging around in a small space for an extended period of time. But these guys got in touch with me completely randomly. I was definitely in the feeling. I went to, after lockdown, so this is probably, actually, I don't know, this is probably when we were able to move again, so probably about June time. I went back into the studio and I was like, this feels very sad. The whole sort of feel of the place feels very depressing, and it's just, I don't know, this doesn't feel good. That's when you started to get the feeling of what might become post-COVID. And I thought, I don't like the feel of this place. I've never been in love with this place anyway. But then randomly, we then had the discussion of how much we're paying for this thing and how much we actually use it. So we went, do we actually need a studio? These days, do we need a studio? And we sort of went through it. And then weirdly, I got some bookings again. And because it was summer, a lot of those are outside. And because it was post-lockdown, we were photographing people in their gardens just to be extra safe, things like that. People didn't want to leave the house. And just the whole thing of packing the stuff up and moving it, and then just being down in someone's space, and you don't know what this is going to be like and that's going to be like. And I thought, oh man, we thought about it, and we just went, this is hard. This is a lot harder. I mean, you wouldn't have the overhead, but not having all your stuff. And I was like, oh, did I pack this? Hang on, where did I have that last? Is this there or is it there? Yeah, I started having that. Whereas, of course, I know that everything's in the studio, or I take it out or bring it back to one of two places. And it was weird. I started to think, oh, I need a studio. And especially as obviously time's gone on, you've thought, yeah, okay, well, you get in that full sense of security where you go, oh, it's fine, I'll just work outside, no problem. That's great in the middle of summer. But then you know what's going to happen, you know. I even had a shoot a couple of weeks ago and it was windy. And of course, your client is like got the hair everywhere, and that's not how they want to be presented, or anything like that. And it's going to get colder, it's going to get more uncomfortable. I thought, I can't, I'm going to have to have somewhere to work from. These two guys got in touch with me and they're like, hey, do you want to rent this space? And I was like, no, not really. It wasn't very nice. It was open plan. It was full of boxes. But something in my gut said to me, just go and have a look at it. So I just they sent me some photos and I sort of went and had a look at it. And we walked in there and I was like, there's no way this is going to work, because they had glass doors like for their offices. And I was like, guys, the flashes going off is really going to affect you in your work a lot. And they were like, oh yeah, we didn't really think about that. And I was like, well, there's just things that are going to be disruptive to you running your businesses. So thanks, but no thanks. Like, if it was a kind of dedicated studio space, if it was separated, then it could be a different story. So that was that. And then a few weeks later, they got in touch and they said, oh, we are thinking about making it into a studio. I said, well, if you need any help with anything, like setting it up or, all of this, then just let me know. And they did, and we got in touch and said, well, hold on, are you actually going to do this? Like, are we thinking that we're going to make this into a studio? Because I could take this off of you, for a certain number of days per week. So you've got guaranteed income. If you're thinking of doing this as a rental studio, I can be resident here if you are actually going to do this. And we had a conversation and we went back and forth. And we were looking at the workload, and with what we have going on, we can actually fit our work into 4 days a week right now, we think. And anything else we'll go and do out on location. So we're now taking this space for for majority of the week, and they can rent it out the other the other days of the week if they wanted to. And so I got involved in this sort of, how it was going to work and all of this kind of stuff. So actually, in a strange way, I've said I'll commit to you for at least a year, so they have some security, given them money up front, all of the things that you would do. But there's something about it. They're filmmakers and they are sound guys, and all our industries just overlap just a little bit. And it felt like the right thing to do because I've cut my overhead. So weirdly, what can you do? What can you do right now when you go, there's no work? Well, you just have to cut what goes out compared to what comes in, because if you're doing your best and you can't get any more coming in due to circumstances, all you can do is try to stop what's going out. Like that's the only thing that you can do. So in this weird sort of set of circumstances, I've managed to cut the overhead, get a better space, and be working with people that we feel like our businesses, we will all benefit from working together. So it's been a real weird stroke of luck. I got this email land in my inbox, and at first I thought it was dead end. I thought there's nothing that's going to happen here. I'll just stay where I am and just figure this out. And I said I'll stay in my studio till Christmas and see what happens and reassess in 2021. And then boom, out of nowhere, this has all happened. So sometimes things have a weird way of just showing up if they're meant to, I think.
Yeah. Do you remember what were your thoughts the first day lockdown was announced?
Try not to swear. But it's I think really, well, I mean, no, to be fair, I thought it would happen. I think when we were all sort of looking at what was going on in Italy and what was going on everywhere else, I thought it would be extremely naive of us to think that this isn't going to happen to us. I just thought it would. I just thought it was a matter of time. And we predicted it in the sense of, we were away for a couple of days. It was one thing after another. So we'd sort of pre-booked this trip down to the South Coast because it was just after my mum had passed away in February. So this was March. So we'd just had a funeral and we went, let's just go to the coast for a couple of days, just to go to somewhere to get the funeral out of the way, get all this done. But we were down there and we were supposed to be there for one more night, and we put the TV on and it was like, yeah, lockdown's happening tomorrow. So we're like, okay, we're going home. But before we went home, before we left, we had made sure we had everything here, because I was like, I guarantee you there's going to be a lockdown. I just don't know it's going to happen. And then it started to happen. And of course, this is before we knew how long it would be. This is before there was anything for anyone announced, any kind of government support. And many people have fallen through the net. Many creatives are in a bit of a sticky situation with that. And I'm a limited company. I take my money in dividends, and that was that. So I was on minimum wage furlough. I furloughed myself for 2 months and then realised that it was actually a restriction for me. I was like, I can't work even if I wanted to. So I took myself straight off of that and just went, right, okay, we need to knuckle down and we need to just do what we can and adapt as much as possible. And thankfully, the phone was still ringing a little bit, which I was quite surprised about. Nothing like normal, but obviously, what was it? March, April, May, there was nothing. Towards the end of May, we were starting to get a few inquiries and a few sort of, are you shooting? Are you coming out, etc. And it was starting to change. So it was not a moment of, I try not to panic. I always say I'm quite good in a crisis, guys, because I don't freak out. Because I understand that there are many things in life that you cannot control, and this is one of them. But all you can do is think about what can you do, or I'm the sort of person that tries to think what can you do rather than what can't you do. And you think, all right, well, this is going to happen and this is going to be around for a long time. And don't get me wrong, I've had my fair share of uncertainty and, kind of have my moments of, oh shit, like, what happens with this and etc. But most of my work, or a huge, certainly it was getting to the point last year where 50% of my work was from doing speaking gigs for doing workshops and all of that. Well, that's dead, that's gone. And in my head, I was going, this is not going to happen for at least a year. Initially, I was thinking, maybe it'll be 6 months. No. And so now I'm sort of thinking, this isn't going to happen for a long time. And I think once you sort of have that acceptance, it's much easier to then think, all right, that's happening, this is happening, what can I do? But how is it for you? How is it for you guys?
Well, I was on a shoot in Budapest when it became clear that this was what was going to go down in the UK.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of corporate kind of gigs, like conferences and things like that. And as it happened, I was shooting this conference in Budapest with some guys that I'd worked with before. So they were doing the audio, like the AV stuff. And there's a film crew there, and I'd worked with them before. And I think on the night before we're all due to fly back, it was like we all realized we were going to be out of work for a bit. So we hit the bar. It's basically what we did.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, what else can you do? Yeah, exactly.
But you know, I think, you know, after the initial few days of, you know, moping, it was literally like, okay, right, so, you know, stop with the depression already, like, you know, and let's see what we can do, you know, because this thing, it's like initially you start thinking about all the things that you can't do, and then at some point you get to develop like a can-do attitude. That was what was happening in my head. And I figured, okay, right, what can we actually do? And you know, the podcast was one of the things. There was a point, probably throughout March, April, where like days and weeks would just roll into one, and
for sure,
you know, and there was like this point where it was like somebody would call you up and go like, hey, you know, what are you doing on Monday? It's like, I don't know. What day is it today? I have no idea.
Monday?
It's like, what's Monday? You know?
That's so true. I know. I think we all sort of felt this weird sense of it. And even when we went out yesterday and we were walking around, to go to the same, we went to a bigger supermarket, which we were going to during lockdown, and we went, there's Christmas stuff out. It was like, what happened? Just like, it just still doesn't feel it. Everything has been so surreal this year for everybody.
Yeah, completely.
How was it for you, Nick? Like, what happened there for you?
It's difficult. It's been slightly tougher in a certain respect for me, because I only went fully self-employed a couple of years ago. All right, you know, and I was working in corporate for like 15 odd years. And so ever since then, I've been, you know, hands in different pies to try and, you know, make up a full income while I start building on, you know, more videography and photography side of things. And so part of my work, my income is employed still, and we work together teaching, you know, music and that kind of stuff, right? And because of that, I fell through that gap you were talking about earlier, where while I was still receiving my income from the employed work, everything else I didn't get any support from the government on, because of the percentage it made up of my income. So that was so that's been a complete nightmare in that respect. Psychologically though, it's funny. I was talking to a friend a couple of days ago, and I didn't realize how much it had affected me until very, very recently. And the way that, you know, just like you're saying, the days roll into weeks, the weeks roll into months, and suddenly you don't know where the last 3 months have gone. And I didn't appreciate how much that had affected me until a few days ago. And so actually I've been processing that for a few days, which has been quite odd, a real strange experience.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting. I think whilst I'm saying this, and I'm fully aware there'll be people listening and watching that I think, oh, it's all right for you and share all of this. And yeah, to a degree, it is all right for me, because we had some savings, and because we worked so hard last year. We were doing all sorts of things. We were going from one place to another, and everyone's saying to me, they're like, I'm worried about you, you need to slow down, all of this. But I was kind of all right. I was running on adrenaline, and we were going from Edinburgh to Dublin to Oslo to here to there, and it was hectic. But the good thing about that was that we were so busy, we just shoved all the money away. We just shoved everything away. Anything that we earned from speaking just went away. And we just sort of forgot about it. And because we were so busy, it's not like we suddenly went, oh, let's go and have a nice weekend somewhere. It wasn't. It was just crazy. So we have literally been living off of our savings. And yeah, I say it's okay for me. It is okay for me because I have savings. But it was only because I'd had that busy year of working that I have those. And that's not going to be the case for everybody else. And of course, not knowing when you're going to get paid next, not knowing how you're going to, like the amount of things that you have to cut off, you know, it might have been a gym membership, it might have been this or that. You might find that perhaps you're not, when you're going shopping, you're not having the extra coffees that you might have had before on your way and things. Yeah. We've all had to adapt a little bit, I think. But mindset, I purely believe that mindset is everything if you can, but I do understand that is very, very difficult to do. I realize that my fallout from COVID, especially at the moment, is that I keep feeling like, because I'm so sure that there is going to be another lockdown of some description, whether it's a circuit breaker, whatever it is, I think there's another one coming. So what's happening now is I feel like, you know, here's me and there's Pac-Man, which is COVID, chasing me. And I'm like, whoa, I just keep looking over my shoulder thinking, when is it going to catch up with me? What's the latest restrictions that I can do? What's this? What's that? Like even this week, London's gone into tier 2. And I've got a shoot in central London on Thursday, which has been booked for quite a while. Thankfully, my friend is an environmental health officer, but I just on a Zoom call on a catch up, I said to her, I was like, hey, Jo, do cancel this? Because I was like, I don't know what the rules are. If they say that, well, I do know what the rules are, but if they're saying people from different households can't mix, I'm not in the same household as my clients. And, you know, so that means it's off, right? And she was like, actually, no, because you're working, you can do it. I was like, are you? I said to my friend who's an absolute expert and the top end of what she does, I went, are you sure? But the thing is, think at the moment, you're so worried about, you don't want to do the wrong thing. She was like, Hannah, I spend all day writing this legislation out and I have to go and enforce this. She was like, you are okay to do this. This is all right. And she said, it's only if you go into the next stage, if they review that differently. But it's a lot on us as well to have to keep up with this. You know, I don't really want to watch the news every night because it's depressing. But yet at the same time, I feel like as a business owner, it's my responsibility to keep myself safe and my clients safe, not break any rules and do all of this. So it's kind of like we have to know this stuff to know what we can or can't do. But it feels at the moment, you're like, we can only plan a week ahead. Because so I keep kind of going, someone asked me about the week after next. I was like, do you know what? I just ask me next week because I feel like things are changing so rapidly right now that making long-term plans is kind of difficult. So it feels like... Yeah.
So have you managed to put any safeguards in place for your business, just in case we're going into another lockdown or?
Well, pretty much. So basically what we're doing at the moment is we have spent the summer filming, we've been recording videos for an online training platform because two reasons. We started doing this thing where we called it Live from the Garage, and for 8 weeks consistently during lockdown on Instagram and Facebook, we formed a group and we went live. And we were basically, my partner was the model. We were working from this garage in here with the kit that we had that was home with us. And we were basically running different themes each week of what we could think of and basically teaching people how to light. And we realised that something's happened here. When we were asking where people were from, people were tuning in from Brazil, from Japan, from India, from like Ghana, the US, down the road, like literally everywhere. And we went, hold on a second. There is an appetite right now for people wanting to learn still. Now is a good time for people wanting to learn. But the whole time that we've been going out and doing these workshops and things like that, we're only reaching the people that can physically come to the workshop. By going online, suddenly you open this up to anyone, anywhere. So we basically decided to film a series of tutorials and we will launch an online training platform. We hope before the year is out. If not, it will be the start of 2021. Two reasons, really. We felt that there might be an appetite for it when everybody is at home. But secondly, as well, it's been good for us. It meant that we can keep working. We keep doing something to stimulate our minds because a certain period into lockdown, about 6 weeks in, 4 weeks in, you kind of go, okay, the weather's good. This is all right at the moment, blah, blah, blah. Then you start to lose it. And when I say lose it, you're starting to think you lose the passion, lose your enthusiasm. Do I even care about the camera anymore? Do I really like what I'm doing anymore?
Yep.
But is there any point in this? Isn't there even going to be any customers when this is over? Why am I doing this? Yeah. All of that starts to set in. And I spoke to a wedding photographer in Santorini, and he was like, Hannah, I can't even, he said, some days I can't even be bothered to get up. I just can't. I don't see the point. What's the point in my camera? Should I just sell it? I was like, go and shoot something. So as much as you don't feel like it right now, get up, go and arrange a shoot for fun, just with whoever's around, and go and shoot something, because it will just kickstart you back into it again. And so we've been making these videos just in the sense that it's given us something to focus on. Each week we've tried to do another one. We've tried to think of a different theme, and we've done what we can within the restrictions that we have. But we've gone and filmed, and we've put it away, and we haven't touched it. I haven't edited the images. We haven't edited the video. We haven't done the voiceover, nothing, because that is what we're saving for, God forbid, there is actually a full lockdown again, that we have something to do, so we don't start, having that same thing again, eating into your mind, going, what's the point? Shall I just give up?
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because, when we went into the first lockdown, I had a lot of friends of mine who are photographers, they, on FaceTime and on the phone, saying exactly the same thing. Like, I haven't touched my camera in weeks. I don't know. I can't shoot. And so, some of them are professional photographers. Some of them are enthusiasts, let's say. And a lot of people said, like, I can't go and do the photography that I normally do. Event photographers, wedding photographers, wildlife photographers. And the story was really always the same. It's like, I'm stuck in a house. I haven't touched my camera. I feel so like, tired out, and I just can't motivate myself to do anything. So what we decided to do was we set up a Zoom call every week, and I think it was the original was like on a Tuesday morning, since nobody was at work.
Right.
And it was one of these things here is basically we just said, anybody who wants to, if you feel like creatively drained or whatever, just come on a Zoom call. We'll talk about it. We'll find some creative ideas. And we figured that, since we're all in the same boat here, we might as well talk about it. And sometimes that's just all it takes, to kind of spur you on again. It's just when you realize that you're not the only person who feels like that, then
100%.
That might help. And that's so that, we've been running this every week, and that's now sort of morphed, now that people are back at work for the most part and everything, it's sort of morphed into a Photoshop training session that I run now every Tuesday evening. So
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's basically, it's one of these, it's a free Zoom call. Anybody who is interested in Photoshop or wants to upskill or whatever, is welcome to join. We went right back to absolute beginner level, and it's just it's a fun thing. People join in, and hopefully they learn something. But it's just it's one of these things that we wouldn't be doing had it not been for the lockdown. And it's just given value to people, and it's been super fun.
So good.
It has. The other thing we did was for the first, during lockdown at the very least, we would set ourselves our own little challenge for each other, specifically for the podcast, so we can we'd set a theme, and like one of them was floats or something like that, and we'd go and take a photo during the week, and then we'd show it on the following episode. And we did that for several weeks, didn't we? And we should get back on that, by the way. But what was I found really positive, and it's inspired me, was that a couple of people that we interviewed and other people that we spoke to on the photo video chat each week, just seeing us do that inspired them to get their camera out again and go and take a photo. And I know a couple of people did their own projects, and that's just loops around, and that felt really good. That just from taking a photo, that's inspired someone else to go and do it.
Yeah, but it's also, there's another thing that happened that I thought was really interesting. It was that because back in 2019, everything was busy. I ended up working with a lot of clients doing lots of different things like corporate headshots and everything else, and events. And although I love all of that stuff, what actually totally went out the window were any personal projects, because you just basically, you step just from one job to the next project to the next project, and you very quickly without really realizing it at first, end up in this place where it's like, okay, well, there's another corporate headshot in front of a white background, and here's my lighting formula, and that's what I do, and I've done a million times, and they like it because I've seen it on my website, so clearly that's what they want. But it's not particularly, it's not creatively satisfying at all.
No, it pays the bills, but yeah, of course, I think that's always the case, is that, when we're working for other people, we're always working to someone else's brief. Yeah. So you never get a chance to play around with that. You're just like, your job is to do what the client wants and to do it well. So yeah, I think that giving yourself that chance to be able to go and explore it and try different things, I think that's great. That's really cool. So talking about lighting, actually, because I know from looking at your images, I always feel like they're extremely well lit, and it's in fact, it's all, whenever I like to come up with a new look or just change things up a little bit, I always look at other photographers' work, obviously, as we all do, I think, as creators. Yeah, of course.
And we kind of think, that's really cool, and I want to try that, or I want to sort of deconstruct how that was done. Yeah. And I very often look at your website.
That's so cool. Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, so, I'm obsessed with lighting. Yeah. I really am. It's like, I think it's really funny. But yeah, to me, that's where it all starts. And I love how different you can make someone look, what feel you can create, all of that. It all comes down to light. Without sounding too ridiculous or over the top, even the light in my own house, I'm now having the house changed because I realized that I am affected a lot by light. It sounds really weird, but during the winter months, I'm sort of like, I get really miserable if it's dingy and it's inside, and I think we all do really, but there's ways that even if it is dark outside, it's like, okay, right, so how can we make this feel warm or cozy, or like we can relax a little bit more? Because even like the color of light and the feel of it and how the type of light that comes out can create so many different moods, and that can even be in your house, like your day-to-day stuff. Like, it sounds crazy, but it's true. So yeah, I'm a little bit I'm definitely a bit obsessive when it comes to light, and it's fun. It's my favorite thing to do. So is that one of the things we can expect on your training channel, is like lighting? Oh, that's all it is. Yeah. That's all it is. Great. It's just lighting. No, that's not true. That isn't true, actually. So basically the idea behind it is that it is set up in a way, we've tried to set it up in a way that with 2 lights, showing you all the different ways that you could start a business. So if you invested into 2 lights, how can you light something as extreme, like all the different things, from a sports shoot to a pregnancy shoot to a family portrait to a corporate shoot, all of these different things, because I'm interested at the moment in helping people try and show the way that they show them ways that they can get more work, because I think at the moment we might all have to diversify just a little bit, because if we want to keep going, and I think you don't need tons and tons of kit to do that. So really, whilst I'm the guts of it is showing how to light things, it is also I talk about interacting with clients, getting clients, how we keep clients, how my workflow is, how we speak to people, all these real little things, lens choices, why I shoot like this, what I'm thinking here. It's basically sort of like you're on my shoulder and we're walking around looking at this, kind of going, here's a potential problem, or this, when I'm thinking about this, I'm approaching this in a certain way. And it's just a case of sort of, it's not just like, oh, here's how to light this. It is that, and in quite specific detail, but it's also the thought process behind it, if you see what I mean, rather than just kind of going, oh, let's just stick a light there and hope for the best. It's like, why are we putting a light there? Why did we change the color of that light? What are we trying to say? What are we trying to do? So yeah, it's definitely, it's a lot of lighting in that. So but yeah, it's a step-by-step process. So what's the platform going to look like? Like how are people going to be able to get involved in that? I have no idea at the moment, Kersten. It's like October. That's kind of true. I mean, it's not going to be subscription based. I'll tell you for why. Because I feel like that puts an unnecessary pressure on me also, because I have two sides. Obviously, I do my education and training and speaking side of things, and then I have a real life business that I run every day. And I am interested in keeping my real life business running, because that's what feeds me the most. And that's how it should be for everyone, I think. So really, I don't want to say, oh, every week I'm going to release a new video, and then I get a big job come in and then I'm not able to do it. I'm only going to end up letting someone down, or, not being able to keep up with it, or the standard's going to slip or something like that. So that's my sort of headspace for now. I mean, in the future that could change, I don't know. But I know the kind of traditional model is to kind of go on a subscription-based thing. But for me as a person, an individual, I would sort of rather have it that you can go have a look at the range, because there will be a range of things on there, and think, oh, wow, okay, right. Like for you guys, for instance, a musician. Yeah, okay, cool. So how was it? Oh, okay. So the picture's there. How did you like that? But you might not be interested in the beauty, and you might not be interested in the pregnancy, or do you know what I mean? Like, you go, I do corporate headshots all the time, or I didn't do corporate headshots, but I realize now with the way that things have gone, people will need corporate headshots more than ever. Maybe I'll start to do that, but I don't know where to start. So these are little things that I hope that you could pick and choose various things that you feel applies to you, rather than paying a subscription and then getting a load of stuff in there that you're just not interested in. So it's very much going to be sort of like, pick and choose what you want.
Yeah. I think there's going to be many opportunities these days, I think, for people to start businesses.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And I've watched quite a number of your videos that you've got up already at the moment, and you have, and hopefully this will help people go towards your training site when it's up. You have a very particular way of teaching, and
I love this. Go on, tell me more.
no, it's really good. And you can watch 1,000 YouTube videos, and I've created tutorials myself in the past for audio work, right? But you watch them back, and there's something you make it feel simple, right?
Good.
Yeah,
it is simple,
and that comes across, right? And that absolutely comes across. But people overthink certain things, and because you do go into the why, you start getting that base knowledge as to, now how can I use this in another situation? And you don't get that very often in tutorials, and I don't know whether that's a conscious decision to do that on your part, or whether that's just naturally who you are. I guess it's the latter. But that's what I took away from that is the why is so important.
Cool. Oh, thanks. I'm glad that is cool, because the thing is, as I say to everyone, I'm myself all the time. I never change. My company never changes, whether I'm on a podcast with you guys, whether I'm in front of a camera, whether I'm sort of sitting around with people. I'm always the same, because I don't feel like it gains anything by trying. You shouldn't have to feel like you have to be a certain way. Yeah. One thing that I felt that the way I wanted it to be is I wanted it to feel like if you were around, I want you to feel like, oh, Hannah's my mate and she's just going to show me how to do this because it's really not that difficult. Rather than I've watched people speak and I've seen people present stuff, and I felt like sometimes it was being overcomplicated, or it's kind of very much like, well, one day peasants, when you get to my level you might understand, and I'm just like, come on man, it's not that difficult, stop pretending it is. It's like, just if you explain something to someone in a way that they would understand, why do we need to make this overcomplicated? Like, it is as simple as, I'm putting this there because of this, and if I put it there, this is what's going to happen that I'm not going to like. You might like it like that, and I never say this is right or wrong, because it's not. Yeah. It's just how you want it to look. It's knowing what's going to happen if you do that. Then it's your creativity. It's your choice to be able to create whatever you want. I think it's much better to give people the tools than it is to just so they can think for themselves and. Maybe remodel a thought, the shot that they've seen, and go, well, I kind of like this shot, but now I kind of like it like this. So I'm going to use the hard light instead, or whatever it is. I think it's much nicer, but I would much rather people felt like, it's just your mate showing you what to do, and based on the fact that they've made so many mistakes before, that, they know how not to make them so quickly now. So it's kind of how it is.
And often you pick up little things. Like we spoke to our guest last week, Tommy, and we were talking about a particular thing that he does where he uses a ring flash as a fill light, and it was just a light bulb moment for me. I'm like, ring flash, because it's one of these things, like, you know what it's like. You have certain modifiers that you like, certain modifiers you can't stand, and usually I'm in the like, I don't like ring flash kind of camp, right? But we were talking about it, and he goes like, yeah, I use it on pretty much everything, and I use it as a fill. And I'm like,
hang on a minute.
Why didn't I think of this?
That's a good idea. Yeah, I know, right? This has to be Tommy Reynolds that you're talking about.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I know. I've seen him do the same thing, and I'm just thought, yeah, man, that's cool. Why not? Yeah,
exactly.
I like this. I like watching, and that's what I really love about Tommy too, is that he just does what he wants, and I think it's nice that people do what they want, and that's where you really can be creative and get different results. If you feel like constantly you're just, oh, I mustn't do it this way. It's kind of the whole light meter thing. It's like, oh, you don't use a light meter? Oh, you can't be a real photographer. Like, whatever. But if you want to use a light meter, that's good too. It's just that there shouldn't be any judgment on any part on how anyone works. Do what you bloody well want. It's your picture. That's how I feel. Like, create what you want. It's up to you. Do what you want.
It's the result that matters. Who cares? Frankly, who cares how you get there?
Exactly right, Nick.
Situations are always different. Sometimes you got a lot of time to experiment. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes, you have a really, like, I remember shooting, doing headshots for a CEO of a very huge international corporation. I literally they gave me 40 seconds. That was it. So, stuff had to be said. I had there was no second chances. It was like, click, click, click. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And of course, everything had to be meted out, and everything had to be perfect, because there was just no, failure was not an option at that, at that moment. But, generally speaking, if you have time to experiment, especially if you're working on a personal project, then who cares?
That's the beauty. That's the time to be able to experiment, because then you're not doing it at anybody else's expense. And it might be that you discover something really super cool, and then you bring that into your workflow, and your clients love it too. So definitely. I mean, there's me kind of going, personal projects are great. I'm as guilty as anyone else of not making time to do them. Well, do as I say, not as I do. I think we should. I'm talking to myself there when I'm saying, we need to make time to do it, because it is important. It's fun.
Yeah. So you're also, of course, an ambassador for a number of brands. So I just want to kind of talk about that for a second. So I know you're a Sony ambassador, and you're also a Profoto ambassador.
Yeah, Profoto don't really have ambassadors, but I'm an unofficial. I am.
Okay. Was that how? Just tell us how it came to be that you ended up ambassading. Is that a word? Ambassading? Ambassadoring.
Becoming in that position. It's funny. So it's always an interesting question, because people sort of say to me, "Oh, how do you do this? I would love to do such a thing." And my first thing that I say to everybody is, don't try to be an ambassador, because these guys get thousands and thousands of requests all the time from people showing and telling, or trying to tell them how they'll be the next greatest thing for them, and all of this. And speaking, I know the guys where all these emails come into, and it's almost kind of like, they read one, they read the same, they might as well copy and paste it, because it's almost the same. In both of my situations, they came to me, which I was just as surprised about. But how it came about, firstly, was Profoto. So how that came about is, so this will make you laugh. It came from a failed business. So, right. So this is what happened. So back in 2015, I did actually start a series of basic educational videos about how to use your camera, because I got a bit fed up of people asking me all the time, and it was one of those things that I found quite difficult to teach. I didn't really have the patience for it because of the different makes and models of cameras, blah blah blah. So I thought, I'm going to make something generic that could, you know, go out to lots of people. I went into business and made these videos with somebody who was not on the same page as me. So we had the potential for it to be distributed by a very large distributor, and it could have been very successful. But unfortunately, the person I was in business with at the time wanted a stupid amount of money for it. And I said I didn't want to be involved in this, and obviously neither did the distributor. And so it was a lesson. So really, I was like, well, the only way we're going to sell these is by selling them from the shop then. You blew your chance, basically. So I had these posters made, and the trailer was up and being shared around, etc. in 2015 at Christmas. Turns out the marketing manager for Profoto at the time lived locally to where my shop was. Who knew? Not me. And had driven past and seen these and went and had a look at them. But mostly where it came from was I did this thing every Christmas. I started doing this thing called an Advent lighting calendar. And what I would do is for every day during December, I would release a photo and a behind the scenes of how I lit it. And I did it for free every day on sort of Twitter and Instagram and things like that. They saw it and they went, okay, this is a girl that can light something 24 different ways, because I did it till Christmas Eve. And here's someone that we've just seen on camera that we know that she's used to talking, she can present on camera. And it was like the 18th of December, I was sitting there with boxes all around me in my studio. It was like a mad time. It was hectic. And I got this email come in which said opportunity to work together. And I was like, oh, what's this? This is probably some kind of someone trying to sell me something. And it was like, would you be interested in having a meeting in the new year? And I looked at the signature and it was the marketing manager from Profoto. I was like, what? Yeah, I didn't even use Profoto at that point in time. So I was like, what? And then New Year happened. We had a meeting. I was working with their staff. They lent me a small piece of kit to sort of get used to. I loved it. I started doing some stuff for them. It went on. I did the photography show. It went on and on and on. And now the rest is basically history. We just have a very good working relationship. And then off the back of that, I was a Canon user, have been for 15 years. I was at the photography show, not the first year, the second year. And a lady came up to me and she was like, are you Hannah? I was like, yeah, what have I done? And she said, I thought it was someone kind of saying to me, oh, you've got to be over here, or you haven't filled this form in, or whatever it was I was supposed to be doing that year. And she was like, oh, can you come over to the Sony stand now? I was like, what? I can't. I got to go on stage in 10 minutes. But I can't afterwards because I was doing a podcast. I was like, but I was like, what? Why? And she was like, I got someone that really wants to speak to you. I was like, oh, none of this made sense. There was not one part of this that made any sense in my head. And I went. So I went, oh, look, I'm really sorry. I can't come today. Like, I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know that what was going to happen. So that she was like, we really think that, we want to have a chat with you about the kit. And I was like, whatever. So I went over the next day and had a chat with them. And they said, look, we've been trying to get hold of you for a long time, but we thought you were contracted to Canon. I was like, nope, free as a bird. And they were like, we really think that with the work that you do, that autofocus, things like this would really, and our kit would be beneficial. Would you be up for sort of shooting with it for a while and see what you think? And I was like, oh yeah, it won't hurt because it's mirrorless, it's something different, and why not? And I played with it and I loved the kit, and it was really good. And so it was actually, at first you're just thinking, am I just being collared to try and be someone to, like a move to get people to switch? And to a degree it probably was. But I wouldn't have done something if I didn't like it. And then a few months later, it was quite quick, but a few months later, they just went, look, we know this is fast. We know you've not been using the kit very long, but we would really like you to join our ambassador program. I was like, I don't think you do. I was like, I don't think that's a good idea, guys. And I was like, look, there's a lot about this kit that I really don't know how it works. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really care as well. I'm not someone that goes into reading manuals and goes all into this. I'm like, what can this do for me? And they're like, no, that's why we want you. And I was like, huh? I was like, it was so backwards in my head because I was like, what? I was like, surely you want an ambassador that wants to know all the ins and outs of every single menu and so enthusiastic. And they are so good because they do not censor you at all. So if you don't like something, because I said, I'm going to say what I think. They're like, that's why we want you. We want you to be honest. We want you to speak to customers about why you have found this switch so beneficial, and we would love to work with you. I'm like, well, you're crazy, but I mean, yeah, okay. And the thing that I must say is that I don't know how it works with other brands, but it's definitely not what you think it is with Sony. We don't get given kit, we have to buy our kit. We might get a discount, but we certainly don't get given endless kit. We don't get given stuff like this. So it's it's not, and you don't get paid, you don't get salary, you don't, there's a lot of this that people think you have, this wonderful lifestyle and they pay for you to do this, give you all this kit. The reality of it is that is not the case. I can tell you that now. My kit I have bought, and I kind of like that in a way, because I hear what they're saying. At first they sort of say, oh yeah, it's basically so that we want you, if you give anyone something and say, we've given you this, now say good things about it. I kind of get that. Anyone can do that. So the fact, if you like it enough that you bought it, means that you're already converted, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like you're going to be honest about what you're talking about. So I kind of like that respect, even though I was like, I feel like you guys are a little bit of a cheapskate, but at the same time, I sort of get what you're saying. So I'm like,
I'm going to have to ask, how have you found the transition from Canon to Sony?
At first it was like when you pick up anybody else, it's like I always say it's like driving someone else's car, like you get in someone else's car and the mirror's in a different place, you have to adjust this, or you go, oh that hang on, this is there, so it's all that sort of general thing of it's not where you are used to thinking it is, so you sort of things are in different places. But now, like, I picked up a Canon the other day, one of my old ones, just because we're moving things from the studio, and I found I was like my 5D3, and I picked it up and I went, I didn't even know where is everything. It's so funny how once your muscle memory adapts, it's just like you've always done it. But no, it's been exceptional. I mean, it's quite funny how it gives you such high expectations for your image. Now I'm sort of going right in on something, and if something isn't like pin sharp, because I'm using the A7R4 and I was using the R3 before that, and the 85mm lens, if I use anything now, which is probably a normal photograph, or if I shot something different that was probably a normal photo, now I'm going right in on it going, it's not sharp, clarity's not there. I'm like, what's happened to me? But it has meant that I don't know, there's something about it. And I'm one of these people, there had to be a positive reason for me to switch. It wasn't just for the sake of it. It wasn't as if they came running with an ambassador contract and I was so desperate to be an ambassador. Like it's nothing to do with that. I was like, well, if I don't like it, and it's the same with Profoto, there's a couple of products there that I don't use. And I say to them, guys, I'm not going to do this because it's not for me. It's not the right product for me. And it wasn't like that. It was that I looked at my files and I was like, oh my God. And even now with some of the way that I shoot, it gives me so much more flexibility to be able to crop into things, to take a section of an image, to shoot wider, to crop in, to connect with people. Like it's just a no-brainer. It's just been one of those things that, it's just so second nature to me now. It's brilliant. I can't even imagine not shooting it now. So it's crazy.
Amazing. And the reason I'm particularly interested in your transition is that I'm because I primarily do video. I shoot on Panasonic for video, GH5S, right? GH5, and there's rumors out there of a new Sony A9 Mark II S, whatever they might call it, coming in the Q1, Q2 of next year. And some of the specs that are rumored to be about and leaked, it fits with exactly what I'm after at the moment, and I can't get elsewhere. Cool. as things stand. However, Nikon have now announced, or there's potentially more coming from them too. So I'm seriously considering shifting over to Sony if this camera does come out and it is the specs that we're anticipating. So so that's why I'm particularly keen on understanding your transition, particularly from Canon.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because my I don't do any video. My partner does all the video, and we've got a A7S III on order, which at the moment they can't ship them out fast enough. And I'm like, okay, so it's been released, but no one can get them. So we're just every day going, hello, and even we can't get them. So that's what I'm saying. You don't get special treatment as an ambassador. We're still at the back of the line, waiting to have ours shipped as well. But he's super excited about that. There's certainly, and what I can tell you for sure is that there is certainly no way we have any inside information about what's going on. They literally give us a text on the WhatsApp the day before with assets and go, something's happening tomorrow, guys. We're like, hello, what? 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 I'll put these out if you want to. We're like, for what? No one knows what this is. So again, another thing that a lot of people think is very different, that we don't get given this information and things to work with. But no, it's been so. My partner came from Nikon, he switched over. I came from Canon switched over, and both of us have just loved the transition, and it's been super helpful and really, really good. Not been Panasonic users, so I don't know how you'd find that. But it's good news for us, I think, the fact that the manufacturers are all in competition and always trying to raise the bar and bring something better out. That's only good news for us in the long term as things get better. So
absolutely. That's cool. That's helped me, definitely.
So where do you see 2021 leading your business? Like, what are your aspirations or plans for 2021?
Plans? Are you joking, Kersten? Oh my god! I mean, I think what 2020 has taught us is there's no point in making plans, because there's always something else that can that can happen. But 2021, I mean, really, I'm very stubborn. I've been through a recession before with my business, and on Halloween this year marks 15 years of me starting my business. Oh, wow. And a lot has happened during that time, but this is unprecedented. There's nothing else like this. It's going to be tough, but I think what I would say to people at the moment is that it will end. And I remember my mum, because we used to work together, and she used to say to me, you just carry on like this recession isn't happening. And I was like, yep, I do. Because I think if you get, I'm fully aware, as I say, I'm aware of how difficult it's going to be, and it is tough, and it is, believe it or not, it is tough for me as well. It was like thinking, oh, she's just switched studios and she's doing this and she's doing that. It's tough, guys. I've got bills to pay too. And the thing is, as I said before, I chose where my studio was based at the beginning, based on the town. So St Albans is an affluent area with a lot of disposable income. I can't afford to live there. I don't live there. So I commute there. I go in. But it's a great place to have a business. So I thought about that before I went ahead, because sometimes you have to think about where is the best location for your business, and it might not necessarily be down the road or just because you live there, that's the best place. You've got to think about, is it somewhere that people have disposable income? Let's face it, photography is not a necessity in the world. It's not something that people roll out of bed and go, I must have my picture taken today. And they also
outrageous.
But they also have means to do it as well. Like, not professionally the way that we would do it, but it's not as if it's like it's a dentist where you just literally can't do it yourself. You have to go. Wow. So it's a different kind that, people can sort of take a shot on their phone and go, that'll do for now. So you've got to think about, where is your business based? Is it in a place that can afford it? Have you got disposable income in that sense? And pretty much from there, you just got to hang tight and just adapt where you can. Think, is there anything else that you can do for your business? You might not want to do corporate work. You might not want to do family photo shoots. You might not want to be going out and doing these various things. You might not. Could you? Is there anything that you can do? Have you got any other skills, maybe from a previous career, anything? Have you got anything that you could integrate somehow, that might potentially bring you some income? I don't know. Only everybody listening has the answer to that. But I don't know. We're making this training platform. Are we doing it because we want to be able to sit inside and sit on our backsides and go, yeah, watch the money roll in? Absolutely not. If you chase the money, it will never come. Yeah. We're doing it so that we literally don't start climbing the walls and we keep using the cameras. If it helps someone else in the process, then great. But my hopes for 2021 is that I hope that we can at some point get some sense of normality back. I really long for the day that we can all be in the same room and have a workshop and all have a great time. I hope that the wedding photographers, things start to pick up again. And I hope that restrictions can be lifted so that events can take place and people can get their work back. In the meantime, I think we just have to hold on to the fact that as bad as everything is going to seem, the media, everything else, the world's ending, we're all going to be, destroyed. We all have to retrain and be something else, etc., etc. Yeah, but we also have to adapt to survive. So my cousin has just started delivering shopping, for people at home. I was like, you know what? If we were really struggling, I would do that. That sounds fun. Or not necessarily fun, but something I could do. I know how to drive. I know how to talk to people. I know how to tick off a list. I was like, tell me more about this. And there is no shame. It's one thing. There's no shame in if you need to go and get a job, if you need to get a side job, if you need to do something else to keep you going. It doesn't make you a failure. It doesn't mean that you're not succeeding. It doesn't mean that it's never going to pick up again. It's just temporary. So I would just say to everyone, this is temporary. When I say temporary, it might last a year, it might last 6 months, it might last a month. None of us know. But just remember, everything in life is temporary. Do what you can so that you are happy now. And it will pass. It will get better, and we will all be in a room again, and we will all be at events again, and it will pass at some point. We just got to hold on to that thought and just go, right, it's going to happen. Ignore the doomers. It will all get better. Just have to keep focused that it will get better. Well, do what you can to survive.
We're hoping that everything's going to be back to normal in at least by late 21 or 22, because we've decided that when we get to the 100th episode, we'll invite all of our guests for a massive party.
Party!
There you go.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that would be so good. And there will be a time. It won't last forever. It's just none of us have seen it like this now. And I think if anyone is struggling, and trust me, we've all had our days where we're struggling, me included, to be honest about it. I post on social media sometimes and going, you know what, I'm having a crap day, guys. Not because I want sympathy, but because I'm honest. And I think it's funny how you say, oh yeah, and everyone else says, yeah, me too, actually. It's okay, it's all right, and it's not failure if you need to go and supplement your income or do something else for a while. It's not that at all. If you speak to me in 2 months' time, I might be doing the same. None of us know, but just hang on in there and it will get better, is my thought. I hope.
Absolutely. Well, you're a true inspiration, and I hope people listen to this and take away, really listen to what you've just said, because it's critically important. I've certainly listened to what you've just said, and I'm going to take my own thing from that.
Well, I think the thing is, the same for what you guys have done. It's like, oh, that's really cool. I love that you guys have done this, and this is it. It's very easy to get bogged down, and I think, and trust me, I know every day you're not able to be in a positive mindset every day. Some days you just need to sulk. Sometimes you just need to cry. Sometimes you just need to go, oh my God, the world is ending. But that's normal and fine. But we will all be all right. We will.
So we have come to the end of episode 27. Thank you, Hannah, so much for being part of this week's episode and talking to us. I hope you enjoyed it. We had a blast, and we certainly learned a lot.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's been great. It's amazing how much you can talk for quite a length of time. It feels like 5 minutes, but sorry about all the interruptions with Zoom, but it's how it goes. It's 2020. But thank you so much for having me on, and I'm sure I'll speak to you again.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So for All of you who are listening to the audio version of this podcast, please be advised that the full-fledged video version is available on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search for Camera Shake Podcast. And if you're kind enough to click the subscribe button, that will hopefully get us over the 100 subscriber mark at some point, at which point you can actually just type in Camera Shake Podcast and it'll come up. It's a miracle. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back, as always, next Thursday.
See you later.
See you later.